Hello. Today we are going to be talking about water because today is World Water Day. So I thought we haven't had a class about this topic before, so we might as well talk about water today. I hope you're having a good week and a good Saturday. I hope you have your water with you. Maybe I need more water because I talk a lot in the class. Coffee. I also have coffee. I have coffee and water. If you guys hear any crazy guys yelling, Saturday mornings people like to sell a lot of things here, so there are always people yelling that they have eggs or something else. So if you hear any of my neighbors selling their things. All right, so I'm going to pose different questions related to water. And so we're going to talk today about water in your life. And then also I have quite a few phrases that relate to water that we use in English. My first question is, do you live near a body of water? And so you can kind of describe the body of water that you live near. And in the meantime, while you're thinking and writing, I'll do the same. So, do you live near a body of water? And remember that we call any river, bay, lake, ocean, all of these things are bodies of water. So, do you live near a body of water? And if you do, describe the body of water that you live near. The ocean that's next to me is the Pacific Ocean. So now we're at the end of the summer, and because I live next to the ocean, there is kind of this like fog mist situation that happens in the mornings. So usually when I wake up or when I'm going to sleep, I need a jacket. But then during the day, the sun is super strong. So you find yourself needing like two different types of clothing during the day, during this time of year. Water is very, very important to our organisms. Exactly. I live close to the Bosphorus. Okay, in Istanbul. Nice. And how is the Bosphorus? Could you describe it? I do drink a lot of water throughout the day, I think. I did not as much before I got a reusable water bottle. So before I had this bottle, I would get glasses of water. And I think now, because I like my bottle, I drink a lot more water. I don't know if anyone else has had that happen to them before either, where when you get a bottle that you like, you start to drink water more frequently. And it's insulated, so it keeps cold too. You said, I'm not living next to a body of water. It's good. Living directly next to the ocean is really nice. It's very touristy in the summer because a lot of people want to see the ocean, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I like it because I feel like there's always fresh air. And sometimes when I'm walking home, I smell like a strong salt smell, and that's kind of cool. I live 15 kilometers remember when we're talking about distance, away from a river/lake. The street you live in Vietnam? I do not live in Vietnam. Do you guys live in Vietnam? It's a river. I do live near a huge one, but it's run out of water. Okay, so it's dried up. This is a common phrasal verb. When something dries completely, so it disappears, it dries up. So we use a lot up with things happening completely. It dried up. In Mexico City, we are running out of water. Okay, that's a prominent issue, I think, today in a lot of countries. Here too, in Chile, in the central zone, a lot of water is used for wine or avocados, and they're more expensive now because of that. The disadvantage of living close to the sea is the sea air, which can rust metal, I would say, or when the salty air kind of destroys the metal, you can say it, maybe in this case it's corrode. I'm not a scientist. I think it would be corrode or rust. How much water gets into your water bottle? I don't know. I feel like it's a liter. What do you guys think? I think it's a liter. How much water do you drink a day? I'm going to ask this as the next question. How much water do you drink every day? The salty air is corrosive. I don't think I've had trouble with that. Well, actually, I do have a metal chair outside that is corroded, so maybe I could blame the that on the salty air. 1 gallon every day. Nice. You are a hydrated person. More than 2 liters. Remember, more than instead of more of. More than 2 liters. Today I drank with the A. Today I drank 2 liters. Or I have drunk if you're using it like the participle. Because if today isn't finished yet, then I have drunk. Yeah, if any of you guys are fasting for Ramadan, maybe you're not drinking water and you're missing. You can tell us, how do you feel? Do you feel dehydrated? So the correct participle of drink is drunk, but a lot of native speakers instead say drinkin' or drunken. So you can hear people use a lot, kind of invent past participles for that word, myself included, but I try to speak using the proper form when I talk to you guys. Almost 2 liters every day. Today I didn't drink any water. You should go get a glass. I try to drink at least 1 liter. 2 is better, I would say. 2 is better. So it's usually between 1 and 2 liters. There's an app that reminds me. Okay, nice. That's interesting. Yeah. It's like, go drink water. I drink between 1 and 3 liters of water daily. Nice. And remember that also, this is something weird about water in English. Water is an uncountable noun, right? It's not something you can divide usually. So, how much water, a little water, a lot of water, instead of how many water, right? So, water is an uncountable noun. Except you'll see when you go to a store and you buy a sandwich and a bottle of water, you might hear someone say, I want 2 waters. So technically, the correct way to think about water is that it's not countable. It's not possible to have 1 water, 2 waters, but it's very common now with ordering food. People say, I want 2 waters. You can also say 2 bottles of water or add another word there to make it countable. But this is also the case with coffee and ice cream. These are foods that traditionally you were not able to count. You needed to say, I want some coffee or some ice cream. But over time, ordering food, people now say, I want 2 coffees or 3 ice creams. I will say ice creams tends to be used more for packaged ice cream rather than cones of ice cream. Probably the best thing to do is to say, I want 2 bottles, 2 cups of coffee. But yeah, you'll also hear people when they're ordering food, use it in a countable way, which is a little bit interesting. I drink about 5 glasses. Remember to add ES when you make glasses plural. 5 glasses. I have to drink more than 1 liter in an hour or per hour, maybe. And remember, so you can say if it's the end of the day, you can say, I didn't drink any water today. Like today already happened, it's finished. But if you're in the middle of the day, it's better to say, I haven't drunk any water today. Because up until now, but the day is only part way finished. So you need to use the present perfect if you're talking about so far today. If you're not drinking enough water, go get a glass. If you guys, this is your daily reminder. Get some water. Fill up your bottle. I also need to drink more water, so maybe remind me to drink water during the live. Yeah, I'm from the US. I'm from Washington, D.C. If you want to say I drink 1 glass of water after each 1.5 hours, I would say I drink 1 glass of water every 1.5 hours. So after each, I would change that and say I drink every 1.5 hours. Would sound more natural. Okay, I'm going to go to another question. I had some questions here for you guys. Oh, my other question, and this is an important pronunciation situation here. Have you ever experienced a flood or a drought? So, the reason I said this is an important pronunciation situation is because I find a lot of people have a problem with the vowels here in these words. So I'm going to help you guys with these vowels. Now, my main tip with vowel pronunciation is that often there's a word that rhymes and has the same vowel that you already know. So flood, it rhymes with blood. So not flood, it's similar to love, ugly, umbrella, flood, blood. That's the pronunciation here. A flood is when a bunch of water enters an area, right? So if you're a Spanish speaker, inundación would be a flood. A drought, earlier Nicolas said this, it's a shortage of water. It's kind of like the opposite. A drought, yes, exactly. A flood is what happened in Noah's time, if that means anything to you. Exactly. And a drought is when there's a lack or a shortage of water. Maybe you're in a very dry place like a desert and it doesn't rain for multiple months or weeks. That would be a drought. And this word drought is easier to pronounce than it looks. This word is basically just like the word out, except with a DR sound at the beginning. So drought. Get out of the drought. Fortunately, I never experienced a flood or drought. This is another case where the most common tense to use if you're talking about a life experience so far in your life would be the present perfect. So here, I have never experienced a flood or drought. If you are 100 years old, lying on your deathbed, thinking about your life, which is basically already over, you could say, "Oh, I'm so happy in my life. I never experienced a flood or a drought." Because the idea is the time span that you're talking about has come to an end. But if you're in the middle of your life, still alive, it's better to say, "I have never experienced it." So that's what I would recommend. In Turkey, you've experienced it. Okay. A flood or a drought or both? We had a huge flood last year in the south of Brazil. Drought is a normal thing here in the south of Morocco. Okay, I understand. That makes a lot of sense. What do you think about Africa? Sometimes people cannot find water. Yeah, I've heard in a lot of countries they have problems finding potable water. This is a really good vocabulary word. So potable water is basically water that is safe to drink and use. It's water that is not contaminated, is potable water. So that's another important thing. Some countries, they have water, but they don't have potable water. If you go to a new country, you can say, "Is the water potable?" Or "Do they have potable water from the pipes here?" You have experienced a flood. Drought is everywhere. We went a drought of energy. Yeah, that's not a common phrase, but it sounds very poetic to say a drought of energy. There was a major drought in the city I used to live due to this. Remember, due in this case will be DUE. Due to this, the lake of the city dried up. Okay. Yeah, that happens a lot where like waterways change, right? Because of droughts and floods. there can be changes in the bodies of water in an area. How can I learn the American accent? I would say the best thing you can do to learn any accent is to shadow people that have that accent, imitating them, not word for word, but phrase for phrase and sentence for sentence. Yeah, and that would, I think, be the best way. And not just the pronunciation, but the intonation. So every language has a different rhythm. It helps to also pay attention to the rhythm and intonation that people use when they talk. What is the antonym of potable? Okay, I would say contaminated water is an antonym. There might be another more scientific antonym. Antonym. So if anyone else knows an antonym, the one that comes to my mind is contaminated water would be the antonym of potable water. So let me move on to the next question. Okay, have you ever got caught in the rain? This is another question based on your own personal experience. So, have you ever got caught in the rain? And here with this question, it's possible to use got or gotten. Gotten is actually more common in US English as the participle of got, or in British English, they usually just use the word got. So you have the two options. I think in the US, we kind of use both, and the Brits prefer the word got. Can you drink your water out of the water tap? Yes, actually. So in Latin America, I think the two countries where it's kind of guaranteed that in most places you have potable water are Costa Rica and Chile. So I kind of lucked out living here because there is a desert where I imagine the taste of the water is probably not good. It's probably very has a lot of minerals in it, but in most parts of the country, you can drink the water from the tap. So, yeah. If you guys know the song, I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? Also, someone was asking about my classes. I have the link to my website on Instagram, and so I schedule my group classes that way. Do American people have the same accent or are there a lot? I would say there are a lot of accents. Yeah, because the United States, remember, is a really big country. So there are definitely differences in accents. There is a quiz that I took that was to find your accent on a map based on the way that you pronounce things. And my accent is very mid-Atlantic kind of, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, these states. It's not like the Northeast where they have, like a Boston accent and New Jersey and these accents. And it's not like a Southern accent, which is pretty distinct as well. But interestingly, some people in California also have a similar accent. We have potable water in Denmark. Yeah, I imagine. So your question here, Mahmoud, foreshadowing, the thing that makes the most sense in my experience is play a few words, pause, and repeat exactly what you heard the person say, because we can't it's too much to process so much information at the same time. It's better to, I don't know, if I say, good morning, everyone, pause. Good morning, everyone. And you try to imitate a few words and then play, and you can rewind, etc. So that would be my recommendation if you find that it works for you to try to play and talk at the same time and predict what the person says, or, another strategy, whatever works for you. In my experience, shadowing by playing a few words at a time, pausing and repeating has been the most effective for practicing your pronunciation. A lot of times when I was a kid, I played in a puddle of water. This is a good word. A puddle is what happens when there's rain and the water collects into little ponds on the street. Those are called puddles. So kids like to splash around in puddles. My country is small and there are many accents. I think that's true. It kind of depends maybe on how separated people are from each other and the history of the country. Caught in the rain is like surprised in the rain. Like imagine you were walking to the store and you did not know it was going to rain, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it starts to pour on you and you were not prepared. You were not wearing the correct clothes. That would be to get caught in the rain. To be busted would not be used with rain. It's if you say busted, it's like imagine someone was doing something bad and you walk into the room, like someone was stealing money from you and you walk into the room. You caught them, or you could say you busted them, but that's only used with people. When you see a person doing something bad and you catch them. When I was a kid, it started pouring heavily while we were on a boat trip. After a few months, hail started to fall. So we pulled over the car and waited till it stopped. Ooh, okay. When I was younger, I used to swim in the river after the rain is gone, but I have never been caught in the rain before. Okay. I'm always I'm almost always prepared with an umbrella. Okay, so you're a prepared person. Got and caught. Have you ever got caught in the rain? So here, reason that I have two verbs together, and these are not verb two, these are verb three. Got could be got or gotten. Got is used in the US and British English. Gotten. I'll put the other alternative here. Have you ever gotten caught in the rain? Right? So this, just in case you're more used to United States English. So both of these are verb three. And an important thing we have in English, right? The present verb, the past verb, and the past participle verb. The past participle verb has a couple important uses to remember. One use is that we use it with the present perfect. So I have been, I have done, I have watched, right? So that's the reason that gotten or got is the present perfect. Now we have caught. This points us to the other use of the past participle. The other use of the past participle is that we use it when we want to make a verb into an adjective. So, for example, the chair is broken, or I am tired, right? So when a person experiences an action and that affects them, the participles are basically like when we change a verb into an adjective. So we could say, have you ever gotten lucky? Have you ever gotten cold? Right? So we could use any adjective after this. It's like, have you ever converted into this state? And so that's why we have gotten is the use of the participle in the present perfect tense. And then caught, it's kind of like we're using it as an adjective, if that makes sense. And some people asked me, the third form of get is got. The third form of get, there's two options. Can be got or gotten. In the United States, we use both. Gotten is kind of the more correct one. And in British English, got. It's get, got. But in the US, the more correct way is get, got, gotten. So it depends on where you are. To get lucky can have a sexual connotation, but not necessarily. It depends. You have to, it depends. Like if you told me, oh, you won the lottery, I could say, oh yeah, I got super lucky, for example. All right, I have here some other questions, some idioms using water. So let me see. So if I asked you, for example, do you go with the flow? This is an idiom related to water. That means that you are laid back and you kind of take life as it comes to you, right? So maybe you are going on a trip and you don't really plan everything, every detail. You wait to see what happens. This is to go with the flow. And this is a phrase that comes from this idea of water and water moving. The difference between where and were. So where rhymes with air, where. Were rhymes with her. So where, were. You open the mouth more for where. I have a shirt with that sentence from my yoga teacher. Go with the flow. In Oman, we go with the flow in everyday business. Okay, so it's easy and nice. I always go with the flow. Awesome. This is kind of if you guys know the distinction between someone who's more type A and type B. People that are more type B go with the flow. Exactly. You don't plan everything perfectly. I usually go with the flow like the fish Nemo in that movie. Okay, I have another phrase. I'm curious if anyone knows what it means. Like a fish out of water. And I'm only using phrases that I've actually hear people use in real life. I know sometimes there are some really weird specific idioms that are very old that people might not use anymore. When I teach idioms, I do try to be a little bit good about filtering ones that you might actually hear in a movie or a person say. So if someone is like a fish out of water, does anyone have an idea? What does this mean? What is if someone feels like a fish out of water? This is not to be in trouble, but actually there is a very similar phrase which is in trouble. So this one is to feel out of place. To feel out of place is like a fish out of water. So imagine you get a new job and you don't really know what to do at all, and you don't connect with any of your colleagues, for example. That would be a fish out of water. You feel like you're not in a good place. Like you also, to play it by ear is similar to go with the flow. Exactly. Yes, this one is when you are in a situation that you're not used to. To be in hot water is different, so we can go to that one next. Yes, this is more like to be a black sheep. Yes, out of place or uncomfortable is like a fish out of water. It's like to feel different from everyone else. It's not like you're in the worst situation ever, but it's just you feel very disconnected from it. Like if you go to try to work somewhere and everyone is very different from you and you don't know what to do. You're like a fish out of water. An example, yes, this is actually a really good one I was going to say. When I moved to a new city, I felt like a fish out of water. Exactly. I felt like a fish out of water. So, really good example if any of you guys move to a new city or have a new experience, your first day on the job, for example, that would mean that you felt like a fish out of water. Oh, Maggie, how was your first day at work? It wasn't so good. I felt like a fish out of water. I didn't understand how to use the copy machine and I ate lunch alone. I don't know. That's kind of sad, but also hello if you're joining. We are practicing different phrases related to water. So when I started learning English, it was like a fish out of water, or I felt like a fish out of water. At a formal dinner, I felt like a fish out of water in my casual clothes. That's a good one. When talking with native English speakers, I still feel like a fish out of water. In school, I always felt like a fish out of water. Nice. Yeah, these are all really good examples. So if you guys are not sure how to use it, all of those were really good examples. Another person mentioned the phrase to be in hot water. And people correctly said this one is to be in trouble. So imagine, I mean, I always go back to the work examples, but you could say he was in hot water with his boss after he sent the email to the wrong person. He doesn't know anything about art, so he looked like a fish out of water at the gallery. Exactly. So, yeah, to be in hot water, we often use with the word with and the person that you are in trouble with, for example. So, like, he was in hot water with his boss. Or you could also say the reason he was in hot water because he didn't come to work on time for the 100th time in a row. So, that would be to be in hot water. This is not a good place. To be a fish out of water is like, okay, it's unfamiliar, but it's not completely negative. To be in hot water, this is a more problematic situation, I would say, to be in hot water with someone. He did nothing at work because he felt like a fish out of water and had to wing it. Yes, this is like between a rock and a hard place. No, inter sacrum saxumque. That is the the Latin. There's another one that I think is really funny that you guys should know. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I heard someone say this on the news actually once, which was kind of funny. I was in hot water with the police officer as I didn't have my ID. Exactly. Yes. Since he refused to, with refuse, we refuse to do something. Similar to like tell someone to do something. Since he refused to take care of Johnny, Tom has been in hot water with the mob. Yes, that's a good. Don't ever be in hot water with the mob. That would be a problematic situation. Um, when she started her new job in a foreign country, she felt like a fish out of water. Yes, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I'll give you an example of this. This comes from this is an mob is like organized crime group, I would say, is my definition of mob. Mob is an organized crime group similar to a gang. A group of bad guys. I hope that the mob watching this I'm gonna be in hot water with the mob for calling them bad guys. I got into hot water for missing the deadline. Nice, exactly. So here, this idea, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, is a little bit weird. It's like from the old days where you put the baby into a bucket. I think people still do this actually. Before your baby can go into the tub, you put your baby into a little bath and wash your baby. Um, After you have a tub of dirty water that your baby was washed in, so you need to throw that water out. Now, what happens if you just throw everything out when there's something bad? That's the idea here of to throw the baby out with the bathwater. For example, imagine there is a president of Maggie Land. I am the president of Maggie Land, and I do maybe I do something bad, like I give a property to my son, or I do something a little bit corrupt. But on the other hand, I'm a very good president. I have a lot of good things. I gave people housing, and the economy is really good, and I have all of these other good things going for me. Maybe some people say, oh, we don't want her to be president anymore because she did this corrupt action. We should get rid of her and find a different person. Someone might say, no, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, don't completely get rid of this person only for some bad things. No, kind of like there's good and bad. So don't just throw everything away because part of it should be thrown away. So that would be the my example of this concept. There are some things that should be fixed about the project, but let's not throw the baby out with the It's the bathwater. Exactly. I don't know why my mom had to breach the subject with my girlfriend. She got me in hot water. After forgetting to submit the report on time, he found himself in hot water with his boss. Exactly. Don't make it worse. It's kind of like don't completely start from zero or throw everything away only because part of it is bad. That's not a good idea. That's the idea here. The company canceled the release of the new product because a minor mistake, throwing the baby out with the bathwater and losing the potential of making a substantial revenue. Exactly. So this is the thing. It's like there was something bad or some detail, and that made you completely throw everything away. That's the idea here. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It reminds you of yin and yang. Yeah, it's like you need the baby and the bath. I mean, try to just get rid of the bathwater. Keep the baby. I know you're unhappy with the company's new policies, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are still many good things about your job. Yes, this is a really good one. Yeah. It's like you could say this to anyone who does black and white thinking or has like extreme reactions to something. There's something good and something bad, and they just say, okay, like throw everything away. Or like, oh, my girlfriend said something I don't agree with. I'm going to break up with her. It's like, hey, but maybe you have other good things about your girlfriend. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. First time I heard this idiom, I was horrified. This is one of those idioms where you're like, how did this become, who was the first person to say this and why? Another one that we have is testing the waters. This is a very common one, testing the waters. This is something that you can say when you want to try something out before you commit. It's like judging people's feelings or opinions before taking further action. Exactly. Before launching the new product, the company is testing the waters with a small group of customers. Yes, very good example. Your boss is a hard person to talk to, but don't throw the baby out with the bathwater by deciding to leave the job. Nice. Judge people's feelings or opinions before taking further action. That is to test the waters. I wanted to test the waters before I decide for the internship. Yeah, I would use the simple tense here. I want to test the waters before I decide. Because before I decide, I understand it's in the future. It's not necessary to conjugate that verb. I don't get a good salary now, but I won't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There are other benefits in the company. Yeah, I would say here, it would be better. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater sounds like something on a regular basis. Like typically you don't do that. It's better in English. We use the present simple less compared to in Spanish. We use the present simple for facts or something that's always true. If it's something that is like an action in the future, like that one, it would be better to say I'm not going to or I won't. Would use it in that case, which is interesting because it's the opposite of what I said for this other one for deciding. I'm going to test the waters. Remember with this idiom, because it's an idiom, we need to use the words exactly like the original. So test the waters. Waters will always have an S on the end. Test the waters to tell her the truth. Do I like Canada or the US? I don't know. I have only been to Canada a couple of times. I've been to Toronto and Vancouver, so I can't really give like a full assessment, maybe comparing the two. I do think that depending on your, like with the weather, if you like cold weather, both are probably fine. If you don't like cold weather, probably the US is better for you. Yeah, I think it depends on the person. But we're culturally pretty similar. I think the big cities in the US are bigger, so but I don't know, you can find diversity in both places as long as you're in Toronto or Montreal. There's pretty cosmopolitan. But the smaller towns are pretty small in Canada. She tested the waters by joining a few online groups. Nice. Make sure to test the waters before taking on tons of responsibilities. Nice. Poetry and prose. Can I change or vary the idiom for the sake of creativity? You could, yeah. Yeah, like, I think because there's not really rules as much in poetry, um, it would sound more like you're talking in a literal way and not using the idiom. So I guess it depends. But I think in poetry, there's a little bit more leeway for that. I'll make sure to test the waters before too. Okay, I already read that one. Let me see. She's thinking about starting her own business, but for now, she's just testing the waters by selling a few products online. Nice. Testing the waters could be a lifesaver if you're working on a team so that you don't lose the team spirit. The French intimidates me. True. If you are in Montreal, you might also have another barrier there. You know what's interesting? I find that it depends on what you're looking for. Like sometimes you find the opposite. So I had a student who went to Canada to learn English, and he ended up going to Montreal and then being a little bit frustrated that they speak a lot of French there. But then I was in a store here in Chile and started talking to the girl that worked at the store, and she went to Montreal to learn French. She was disappointed that people spoke more English than French. So it's like if you go to a place with this expectation, I want to speak English, you'll find, oh, why does everyone here speak French? Or if you go to the same place saying, oh, I want to speak French, then you're like, why does everyone here speak English? It's kind of funny. Sometimes you end up getting, you're searching for something, you end up being, I don't know, maybe seeing it in a different way from someone searching for something else. She's testing the waters by taking a short course before enrolling in college. Exactly. Did you test the waters before you moved to Chile? I tested the waters by studying here for a semester. Yeah, before moving here permanently, I would say I tested the waters. But not that much. Honestly, not that much. I kind of threw myself into the deep end. This is if you don't test the waters, if you want to give like an opposite response, I'd say, for example, I threw myself into the deep end. The deep end is the part of the pool that is deeper, right? So we have the part that's maybe like 3 feet, and then it gets increasingly deeper. Maybe it's like 10 feet deep. So you could test the waters in the shallow part. Ooh, is this a right thing for me? Or if you don't test the waters, you throw yourself into the deep end. So if you're one of those people that started practicing your English by working in a call center, I should say you threw yourself into the deep end in that case. It's kind of like the opposite. Would test the waters to go back to the US, or would you just do it once you decided? I don't understand your question, but I tested the waters studying here, and then I went back to the US and then I came back. Oh, I would say I tested the waters in that situation. Ironically talking, I tested the waters studying geography. Exactly. Me too. When I started my new job, I had no experience, but I threw myself into the deep end and learned pretty quickly. Yeah, and we can combine them, right, with the ones from earlier. Like, he threw himself into the deep end, and he was worried he would be like a fish out of water, but luckily he just went with the flow and decided to deal with the parts of his job he didn't like instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and avoided getting into hot water with his boss to last for longer. I'm more the type to test the waters than throw myself into the deep end. Yeah, here I would say I'm more of the type to test the waters than throw myself into the deep end. Yeah, I can tell with the umbrella example. Don't get caught in the rain. Entrar de cabeca. I don't know how to pronounce that letter in Portuguese. Cabeca in Portuguese. Yeah, it's similar. I think it's similar in Spanish. You could say like enter with your head. Yeah, entrar de cabeza. I would understand if someone said that in Spanish. And I threw myself into the deep end getting a job as an interpreter, not being able to speak fluent English. Okay, this is a good lesson for everyone. You guys should throw yourself into the deep end in an English job or a job where you need English, and you'll learn faster than you could ever learn in another situation, I think. Because you kind of just have to. Okay, this is another idiom, sink or swim. Sink or swim. When you're in one of these situations where you throw yourself into the deep end, and it's like either you are going to survive or not. Like it's like a life or death situation. You can make it or fail. It's like one of these extreme situations. We say sink or swim. So, it's like if you're in the middle of the ocean, you have two options. You can swim or you're going to sink. So, this is yet another water idiom. I think water is such an important part of life and cultures all around the world and it has been for so long. We just have so many phrases that relate to water. Sink or swim. Like you can make it or break it. Exactly. Sink or swim. All right. I think I'm going to wrap up. These are quite a few idioms for you guys today. I hope that you were able to practice a little bit of listening and vocabulary. Exactly. It's like you win or you die. There's no middle ground. Luckily, I think that there's a lot of situations that are not sink or swim, so at least that's the case. This is yet another phrase. Yet in this word is yet in that word is similar to as well or additional, but it emphasizes that like I'm trying to think of situations. So for example, maybe a bunch of people complain about a company and one more person does. It's like this is yet another person. So it kind of emphasizes in a way like even more people, even more examples. Similar to also, but it's used in a situation where there's more than you expect. That makes sense. So you could say this is yet another situation. This is yet another situation where my boss undermined me, be the use. I'm going to wrap up the class for today. Thank you guys so much for joining. I will post it on my page right now. You can see it afterwards. And I hope you have a good weekend. I don't know what's happening with, know what just happened. It's a sign clearly. But yeah, take care and I'll see you the next week in the next one. Bye, everyone. Oh, sorry.